There are more than 3 million people crammed in the opposition-held area in northwest Syria. The vast majority of them have been displaced from other parts of Syria by the Syrian regime and its Russian and Iranian allies. Majority of them are children. They are all dependent on humanitarian aid for survival. Russia uses the UN Security Council Resolution 2165 authorizing the UN to provide humanitarian aid in Syria through designated border crossings to blackmail the rest of the international community into concessions and normalization of the Syrian regime. Resolution 2165 has resulted in two flawed assumptions: that Security Council authorization was necessary in order for the UN to provide humanitarian assistance in opposition-held areas, that assistance provided without such authorization was illegal. Both of these assumptions are wrong. Delivering aid to Idlib without the approval of UN Security Council is not illegal. Everybody keeps treating the delivery of aid to Idlib as purely a humanitarian issue, begging and pleading with Russia's humanity to extend Resolution 2165. We have seen the Russian humanity in Syria through the bombs it rained on our children and its support for the Syrian regime's crimes. It is absurd to appeal to Russians on a humanitarian basis, when for them this is a political tool to blackmail Syrians and the world. We have to change the conversation and assert clearly that delivering aid to Idlib without the UN Security Council approval is not illegal. On the contrary, this is the solution the UN must embrace. There is no rule in international law that definitively states that it is illegal for the United Nations humanitarian agencies to cross an international border into areas not under control of government to provide impartial humanitarian assistance in full cooperation with local authorities and local communities. According to a group of leading world experts on international law, there are three key conditions the UN meets for a legal cross-border delivery of aid to Idlib without the UN Security Council approval. UN clearly meets the first condition for legitimate humanitarian action, which requires it respect the principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and non-discrimination in delivering aid. Number 2. This area is controlled by various opposition groups, not the Syrian regime. In such cases, the consent of these parties in effective control of the area through which relief will pass is all that is required by international law to deliver aid. Number 3. Under international humanitarian law, parties cannot lawfully withhold consent for aid delivery to weaken the resistance of the enemy, cause starvation of civilians, or deny medical assistance. Where consent is withheld for these arbitrary reasons, the relief operation is lawful without consent. The UN has been explicit that the Syrian regime has arbitrarily denied consent for a wide range of legitimate humanitarian relief operations, which makes delivery of aid to Idlib without its consent unequivocally legal. Over 80% of the people in Syria categorized by the UN as being in severe or catastrophic humanitarian need are in Idlib. They are mostly children. Everyone knows that accepting the Russian pressure to close the humanitarian crossings will inevitably lead to a huge new wave of displacement of Syrians to Turkey, Europe, and neighboring countries. This must stop. We know our rights. The UN must use the existing legal basis and deliver aid to Idlib regardless of the Resolution 2165. States involved in Syria must stop using the vulnerable Syrian population as a political card, and no party must be allowed to profit from their suffering under any circumstances. Enough is enough. UN Security Council does not have to approve delivery of aid for it to be legal. There is already legal basis for delivery of aid without UN Security Council approval. Russian blackmail over humanitarian aid to Syrians must be made to stop. We know our rights. Aid to Idlib is not illegal.